Because Vietnam War veterans were faced with so many different issues as a result of their overseas experiences, each veteran found unique outlets to cope with the many ways the war affected them, and subsequently went on to lead successful lives back home in New York City.
But all the time, every moment I got, I would go surfing. And I got a surfboard down there, a new surfboard, and either I was going to work, I was working out, I was surfing. What I didn't realize is that I was healing. And what was really the most important thing to me healing, believe it or not, was the surfing. Because I would just go out there for hours and I would forget about, my job, about the Marine Corps, about Vietnam, and I would just have fun.
How do I cope with it? All right. So part of it is having good friends around, my family, having a job that keeps me very busy, my students. I love teaching. I struggle to go out and do my own photography. I'm still in good shape where I can bounce around.
Some of the things that bothered me about the war I didn't deal with for many years because I had a lot of people that I could share with, but still wasn't breaking out into a healthier relationship. It's a mutually dependent kind of relationship that's just for me. And so it took me longer probably to get to the root of some things, but I was able to accomplish a lot in that period. I wasn't in paralysis. That was I was doing stuff. Even within a group that you were familiar with and friends, guys who had been to Vietnam already, sort of always by the end of the night, if not at the beginning of the night, unless there were women there. But but if there was just the fellas hanging out, we'd sort of end up in that kind of little nucleic configuration.
After the Vietnam veterans returned home, they felt isolated from other New Yorkers who did not have their shared war experiences. The returning soldiers sought comfort in each other and formed a community of their own as a means of confronting the consequences of the war. They forged new identities in Vietnam and were faced with the obstacle of readapting to life in New York City. These veterans were an individual group of Americans who played a critical role in the unpeopling and subsequent repeopling of this multifaceted city we call home. Many of the 81,891 veterans that returned back home to New York City successfully reassimilated back into society and now lead fulfilling lives. After returning to New York in 1968, John Hamill graduated from the City University of New York in 1975. While in school, Hamill became an active member of Vietnam Veterans Against the War and began his career as a journalist. He currently works as the Director of Communications at Brooklyn College. He shares a home with his wife and 15-year-old daughter in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Joe Giannini has been practicing criminal law for over 30 years, hosts a television show titled East End Veterans, and is an anti-war activist. His writings have been featured in the East Hampton Star, Vietnam Veterans Against the War, and other publications. One of his stories, Big Wave Dave, was published in The Surfer's Path, one of the most popular surfing magazines in the world. He is also known for coining the term poncho rotation, which has inspired multiple art exhibits. Neil Kenny completed his GED in 1969 and began coursework at Staten Island Community College in 1970. He served as a New York City high school teacher at Fort Hamilton High School and retired from that job in 1996 as a result of post-traumatic stress disorder. Today, Kenny is very active in Veterans Affairs, serves as a member of the Staten Island Marine Corps League, and acts as a mentor to a number of young men currently serving in the Marine Corps. After Tony Valles fought in the war, he sought to understand the war and its implications on his life. He joined Vietnam Veterans Against the War as a participant and photographer. His work has been exhibited and widely collected by El Museo del Barrio, the Brooklyn Museum of Art, the Municipal Art Society, the Bronx Museum of Art, and by the New York, Brooklyn, and New Jersey Historical Societies. Since 1987, he has taught photography in the Fine Arts Department at Kean University, New Jersey, where he coordinates the Arts Dialogue, an artist lecture series, and the BFA photography program.
Something clicked in me as I was walking over the bodies of people. I said something to myself within me. I said that to Joe earlier. I said, there's no God here.
I went into the service. My dad taught me my country, right or wrong, and I learned in Vietnam that we were wrong.
a mainstream American that had not a mainstream experience, and that'll always color my life. It has. I mean,
He says, what was the war like? It says, well, if you were there, I don't have to tell you. And if you weren't, you wouldn't understand.